Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast with your co-host, Kirk.
Hello, hello.
I am your other co-host, Cam. If you guys are tuning in live right now, I want to give you a special shout out because we were supposed to go live 1 hour ago. But let me tell you something. Live streaming is not for the weak-minded.
No.
All right? It's not
and
for...
we are weak-minded. That's the moral of the story.
That we are. You got to have thick skin, of which we do not. You have to have not thick skulls, which is not us also. But let me just say, someone didn't want this episode to happen tonight. I don't know who it was. You know, I don't know if it was just the world. I don't know. My vehicle certainly didn't, but we had some technical difficulties on multiple fronts. We had vehicular difficulties and then technical difficulties on top of that. So let's just dive into that. Because if you're watching the stream right now or listening, you need to know that we are hardcore. I was on my way here. I was sprinting back from St. Louis. I was like, gotta get home to record. And this was after the tornado warning. Okay, so that's check number one, that this was not supposed to happen tonight. Tornado warning. Okay, we had that happen, and I waited it out, and I was like, all right, I can leave at 7:30. I'll make it home in plenty of time. Left, started getting home. My engine overheats. All right. I kid you not. My engine overheats. And here's what takes me off about this, Kirk. I have owned my vehicle, the vehicle that I'm driving, for 11 years. So perhaps this shouldn't be surprising. But here's what's frustrating about it. I have never once touched the coolant on this vehicle. Not one time. Because every 5,000 miles, I take my car to the instant oil change place. And I don't want the car people chirping me about the instant oil change place. But let me tell you something about those guys. They are supposed to check the coolant.
That's right.
They are supposed to check it. And I just went there last Sunday. And I don't know what they did. Maybe they emptied it and then didn't put any, I don't know what happened. But I had no coolant. And I don't have a leak because I would have noticed a leak because my car is parked outside. And so I would have seen it, but I did not. Anyway, no coolant. My car overheats on the way home. So then I had to go to Gas Donald's, which thank the Lord for Gas Donald's. That
beautiful right? Establishment.
It's an oasis in the middle of a desert, the desert of life. There, nary a moment in my life has Gas Donald's not been there for me. Gas Donald's is always there in your time of need. And so thank you, Gas Donald's.
Thank you.
I went to Gas Donald's. I got some coolant, got home. Okay. Then we get online and we're having internet issues, which may persist. They may persist. I don't know.
That is correct. I think I ran 3 miles around my house trying to find all of the right equipment to remedy this problem.
Easily.
I think it's on my end, and I'm very sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, we had an episode. My favorite thing in recent Popcorn for Breakfast history is we were doing a stream. It was I think it was our first stream ever, and you were having some technical difficulties, and you had come back from being frozen, and in the middle of a sentence where you said, you know, and usually I think the technical difficulties are on my end, and then it froze. I was like, that is chef's kiss. So beautiful.
Yep.
It was just, you could have put that in the Louvre. That was just art. It was art in motion. And I couldn't even be mad at that point. It was just hilarious.
Yeah, I hope that this is sustainable for the rest of the night. We haven't. Let's see if this happens. We haven't had any glitches so far since we've started the live stream. We are going strong, and nothing is occurring, and nothing will happen, especially on my end.
Yes.
And we're in good shape here. Let's see what happens.
You're testing it. I like it. Yeah. So if you're watching over the live stream, thank you for being patient with us as we dealt with all of that. Here's some more housekeeping. This is just going to be a fun show. This is going to be fun. I can just tell you already. It's going to be a blast. It's off to a great start. And here's the other bit of housekeeping. Let me prime you for this. Kirk, you will know this better than anybody because you also have 2 kids. My children and my wife, God bless her, have been at the zoo all day. They've been seeing animals. They've been getting filled up with tacos and ice cream, and they are on their way home. It is currently, as we're recording, I don't have my watch on. It is 10 o'clock at night. My children's bedtime is 8 p.m. Okay. They are on their way here. My dogs, who are small and loud, are upstairs. So really at any moment, it's like we're sitting on a ticking time bomb right now. At any moment, chaos will unfold above me, the likes of which you've never seen or heard in this world. And you will probably be able to hear it. I mean, this is a nice microphone, but I'm in a big open room, as you can probably hear, and there's nothing on this planet that could stop the sound that is going to come from upstairs. It will be a chaos of biblical and prehistoric proportions that will unfold as soon as they walk through the door.
Yeah, I mean, some crazy things might happen. I think all of your Funko Pops are just going to attack you.
Oh, yeah.
Because the sound barrier is just going to explode into that room for sure. What are we going to do when they do arrive? I mean, are you going to need to assist?
No.
Where are we at with this? No,
I've already.
She's on her own.
I've already signed the contract. I'm on duty tomorrow morning, and so I'm off duty tonight. That's how that works.
I got you.
But it will be loud, and you will probably be able to hear it. And Funko Pops may fall off the wall at me. It's happened before. And as you know, 2-year-olds, my son's almost 3 now, are basically baby velociraptors. They're not fleet of foot. They stomp everywhere they go as hard as they possibly can. It will sound like there is a rhinoceros above me, but it's not. It's a small 40-pound creature.
Yes, so unless they brought one home from the zoo. This is possible.
That's also possible.
Because your son is very persuasive.
He is persuasive. It's hard to say no to him. And if there were animals for sale, I can bet that he's got one right now.
Me, I will be stifling yawns throughout this entire episode. I have been trying to hide them over the past 5.5 minutes. I've been if you were watching closely, my eyes were watering up. My face kind of froze in a very unnatural way. It's because I'm very tired. I'm very tired. But I have no real reason for it. I have not been running. I have not been gallivanting around town. I have just been home. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Perhaps I got too much sleep last night. I'm just going to brag about that. It was pretty good.
So you are going to yawn through the show.
Yes.
Because you got too much sleep last night.
Exactly right.
Perfect. I think that's... I hate you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because that is outrageous. But you know what? To each their own. Wow, that's pretty ridiculous. Okay. Next time, just mute yourself or something. Or I will mute you. I will. I have the power.
I think it's important for everyone to hear.
No, it's terrible. That's terrible radio. That's the worst radio. Yes.
Oh, I think coughing is bad, but yawning, I mean, people want to relate, and I hope that anyone listening is yawning along right now with me.
They probably are, and that's why I'm saying that's terrible. It's just bad radio.
Let me ask you, when you yawn, have you ever yawned in the car, but it was such a hard yawn that you almost crashed the car, that you were you couldn't see because the strength of the yawn took up your entire face and you had no visibility? Has that happened to you before? There
are yawns that require you to close your eyes.
Yeah.
For sure. I tried to refrain from that while I'm driving in general. One of the best ways to refrain from driving, or not from driving, from yawning while you're driving, is to chew gum.
Oh.
Pro tip: don't chew gum right now because you have a microphone in your face, and that will sound even worse than yawning.
That's probably true.
That'll be absolutely horrible. And there's nothing I hate more than mouth sounds. Please don't. Seriously, I will seriously punch you through the screen. I hate mouth sounds on microphone. It makes me want to die. Okay, so for those of you who are watching the stream, thank you for being with us. For those of you who are listening to the episodes of the podcast, just a friendly reminder. This episode will be divided into 2 parts. First part will be our news, our what's poppin', and the second part will be our review. So if you're listening to the episode and you're like, hey, where's the review? Come back on Friday. That's when the review will drop. We're reviewing this week a movie called Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. Kirk and I actually went to the movie theaters. We saw this ins Kino. It's German for in the cinema. We saw it in the movie theater, in the movie house. Like real live people. We were following our CDC guidelines. We were masked up, socially distanced seating. It was great. How did it feel to be back in the theater, Kirk?
It felt so good, man. It really did. You got the heated seats. They kick up. You got the footrests. There were probably 8 people in there total, including us,
Yeah.
including the projector specialist, whoever. And it was great. It was wonderful. I felt relaxed. I enjoyed my
Hmm.
popcorn and my sody. It was a wonderful time. I'd go back again.
I know. I'm excited to go back again. In fact, this Wednesday, Godzilla versus Kong releases. And I believe that will, I mean, barring some sort of other movie event, that feels like it's going to be our review for next week. And I have to say, there's just something un-American. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's something not right about watching monsters fight each other for the first time on your home screen. So I feel like I got to find a way to get to the theater to see Godzilla versus Kong because I feel like it will just be a way better movie-going experience.
I hear that. I hear that. This is one, as I've mentioned before, I'm not super excited to see this, but I will because it's my job. It is my job that I get paid $0 for, and I will continue to pour money into it. So let's do it. Let's go to the theater Wednesday.
Yes, that's when it comes out. We don't have to
Yeah.
go see it Wednesday, but that is when it comes out. And it'll
Midnight
also be on HBO Max for those of you guys who are not going to the theater.
midnight premiere at the theater. What do you think?
They don't do that anymore.
What if we
do
just
it.
go there at midnight, break in,
Yeah, I like that.
and
Just demand
find?
it.
Yes,
Say no.
find.
Now. We want the dinosaur dragon monster versus the giant ape right now. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a good plan. And
It is a good plan.
And once we do this, we will definitely not see you next week to record this episode because we'll be in jail and we'll need
be
your
in prison for trespassing and for violence against public property or personal property.
following week we'll be bailed out and it'll be a great story for the next episode.
The best story. But you know what? The people at Marcus Theaters are so kind. They might just oblige us. They might just be like, you know what? Come on, let's watch it. They'll cozy up next to us and we'll eat some popcorn and watch some monster movies. I mean, it'll be a great time. So that's coming up. Godzilla vs. Kong. Mark your calendars. March 31st, which is Wednesday. That will be available on HBO Max or in the theater if you're feeling adventurous. But like I said, this week we're reviewing Nobody. We got some news to cover in What's Poppin'. So for those of you who are listening to the first half of the episode, we'll have plenty to cover there. And then we'll do our review and we'll get the heck out of here. Because like I said, it's been a crazy, crazy day. And I feel like we are testing fate right now with this episode. Feels like Final Destination. Like this episode was not meant to happen. And at any moment, my ceiling could just poof, and it would be game over. So without further ado, let's dive into What's Poppin'. Kirk's got the popcorn. That's not fake at all. That looks very real. Look at that. Great sound effects, too.
It is delicious.
You just popped that right now. That's what that sound was. That sound effect that I played, that was actually Kirk popping that popcorn.
I've got the fastest popcorn machine on the face of this planet. I wish you guys could taste this. So good. Oh, okay, got it. I'm good. I'll enjoy this later.
Yes. All right. I know this is exactly how I feel. We just got a comment about moist mouth sounds. No, see, there are people on my side here, Kirk. I hate it. It's the worst. So let's just get to the news, okay? I'm selfishly going to start with the story that I want to talk most about, which is that we got a full trailer for the Suicide Squad, which is the next installment in the DCEU. It's coming out in theaters and on HBO Max, as with all Warner Brothers movies this year, on August 6th. And we got a full trailer. Just a reminder, this is being directed by James Gunn, who directed the Guardians of the Galaxy films. And this has got a cast list that is just boggling to the mind. I mean, I can't even begin to list them all, but there's some big heavy hitters in there. We got Idris Elba, Margot Robbie, obviously, John Cena. We've got Sylvester Stallone playing King Shark, Taika Waititi in a yet-to-be-disclosed role, Sean Gunn, as always, with his brother. We've got Joel Kinnaman. We've got, who else do we have? Jai Courtney. I mean, just like loads and loads and loads. It's insane. It's an insane cast list. But But let's talk about this trailer because the DCEU, we talked about it at length last episode. If you weren't in on the last episode, one of the things that we talked about was our schoolyard pick of DCEU films. And I think, so far, I'm just going to say my opinion, and I think it's our collective opinion, that the movies that have been spit out by DCEU, the DC Comics Extended Universe, have not been great. And they're kind of in a position right now where they need to figure something out. They need to figure out what their next big thing is. And, James Gunn is one of those directors. He's really a hot director right now. He's done some amazing movies. People love his work on Guardians. And so I feel like we're at a point now where this is sort of make or break time for them. And I'm wondering if this is the movie to do it. Kirk, based on the trailer, how are you feeling about the Suicide Squad?
I'm feeling good. My biggest contention with when I was trying to wrap my head around the characters was King Shark. I was like, how is that going to work? How are they going to make this possible? Like, I trust James Gunn, but I was very concerned about that particular character. So when the trailer dropped and we have King Shark just saying, what does he say? He says like, nom nom, gonna eat. Like, he just lifts that thing up, and the voice.
Yeah, he says nom nom as he's eating a human being.
Yes.
Like he actually, that's an actual thing that happens in the trailer. And then he rips a guy in half.
It's so good. And the fact that that is Sylvester Stallone, it just makes it all the more charming. Like, I was most concerned about that character. And because like all my chips are in on this now because of that moment in the trailer. I trust it completely and entirely. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be such a good ride.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really fun. And I think, I wasn't too worried about King Shark specifically. I think, but the way they're going is just such a James Gunn way to go about it. It's like very much in the same way that he handled Groot. Like, first of all, King Shark looks adorable. Like, he's precious. You just want to like pat his head. I mean, he's just like a chunky little shark guy and who's like very round, but and is like wearing like acid washed jean shorts. I don't know. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting there. And he, like I said, says num num while he's eating a person. And then he is in the meeting with, Viola Davis. How did I forget Viola Davis? She's playing Amanda Waller. And he's in a briefing meeting with Amanda Waller and he raises his hand and he's like, and she's like, yes, that's your hand. That's your hand. And like you said, like the fact that it's Sylvester Stallone just makes it so great. There's something there. Like, James Gunn has these connections with people, and Sylvester Stallone is one of them because he was one of the Ravager, like the high-ranking Ravager officials in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But overall, I'm extremely encouraged by this trailer. I think it looks really good. It certainly has the James Gunn flair. I think the character design looks good. Even like we've got the title treatment up here. I thought, it feels in a lot of ways like Quentin Tarantino meets superhero films. And that's what's exciting to me because that's like my dream come true, quite honestly. And the fact that the villain that they went with for the Suicide Squad is Starro, which is a telekinetic starfish. He's a giant alien starfish, basically. And they made it even look more starfishy than I think he does in the comics. That's just awesome. And so one of the things that you get with James Gunn that I really appreciate is that he's a legit comics fan. Like, he has read it all. He still reads comics. I was watching him on Twitter interacting with a fan of the comic Invincible by Robert Kirkman, which just got turned into an Amazon Prime series. And he's there interacting with people. He's actually read it. This is like a huge, highly paid movie director. And he's like, oh yeah, I've read Invincible and I know what's going on there. So it's just exciting. I think it's exciting. I have no idea what it means for the DCEU because I think that's pretty much in shambles, even following Zack Snyder's Justice League, or really especially following Zack Snyder's Justice League, because we know that that's a bridge to nowhere, essentially. Like, there's nothing happening really that comes off of that. So I don't know that it's going to save the DCEU, but I know that it at least looks like it's going to be a fun watch.
Yes, yes, yes. One of the most fascinating things about this is, of course, James Gunn was canceled famously by followers or anti fans or just Twitter. We can just sum it up to that because of his past, and he apologized, but also said, that was a previous version of me. Can't we move on with forgiveness? Disney canned him, and he moved over to DC, and this is the byproduct of it. So, will we see James Gunn in a future DC event because Marvel and Disney changed their minds, brought him back? He's coming back to direct Guardians 3 in the future. So could we see someone who can go on both sides of these big superhero this big superhero rivalry?
It's a great question, and I think it's something that's totally on the table because even beyond the Suicide Squad, he's directing a limited series starring John Cena about John Cena's character in the Suicide Squad movie called Peacemaker, which will be on HBO Max.
Awesome.
So he's going to continue to work with DC for at least through that, but beyond that, has nothing planned. But what I can tell you from he interacts a lot on Twitter, which is really nice, but he and Margot Robbie have a really good relationship now, and there's been talk of him potentially taking on another movie with Harley Quinn in the future.
Perfect.
Which seems like a match made in heaven. So, yeah, I mean, Disney Marvel Studios loves him. DC looks like, they were willing to hand over the keys and basically say, you have total creative freedom, do your thing. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes because I can just tell you from watching it, he's really enjoying both sides of the comics world there. And so, I mean, unless his contract states otherwise, he could honestly be that guy.
Yeah, I wonder what Marvel and Disney have in their contracts for these directors. Obviously, for the actors, we've seen them bounce back and forth between studios and between worlds. So I don't really think there's as much restriction with them other than their publicists telling them which roles to pick if they have total control over it. I would definitely be down to see the directors have more freedom to cross studios and to cross brands. That'd be pretty fantastic. I mean, imagine at this point if the Russo brothers came over to DC and just elevate that. Obviously, then the money is competing with them as always. But what if we were able to live in harmony with Marvel and DC,
right?
As you and I have always hoped?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It would be interesting. It would change the game because Marvel's got a lot of great directors and DC's got great characters, as I've said a billion times. Great characters, great source material. I think it would be really fun. A good question that we have in the comments right now is about what is this Suicide Squad in relation to the previous Suicide Squad? And I think it is a good question because there's some character crossover, right? Like we get Jai Courtney is still Captain Boomerang, Margot Robbie is still Harley Quinn. I think Viola Davis, was she Amanda Waller in the first?
She was.
Yeah, so she's back. And then Idris Elba. No, he wasn't in the first one, was he?
He is taking over, I believe, as he...
He's Bloodsport.
Was that Will Smith? Or did Will Smith play
Deadshot.
someone? He was Deadshot. Okay, gotcha. So
I think people thought he was going to be Deadshot because that seemed like the obvious choice because even the early character design sort of looked like Deadshot. And Idris Elba and Will Smith have similar acting styles in terms of like what they bring in that sort of like superhero setting. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what people thought. But he's playing a character called Bloodsport, and I don't think there is a new Deadshot. So
not in the immediate list, not yet. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. So it's interesting because they're both going to reside in the DCEU, but for all intents and purposes, I think this is pretty much viewed as like a remake. I think there will be some ties to other things that have happened in the DCEU, so they'll be tied together in some ways. And I certainly don't think this is to like write out that Suicide Squad movie by David Ayer, but just kind of do a retry in hopes of getting a more favorable response. So it's going to be a little bit messy, but this isn't a sequel. This is not a sequel to that movie, nor is it directly related to it, but there will definitely be some weirdness and some sort of adjacent themes. So
I like to think of it as, okay, so you have the iconic Christopher Reeves Superman, right? Well, now we have all these other Superman films, and they obviously technology is different, the time era is different, society is different. I would kind of consider that this, if we will, it'll be definitely easier to look back on it 10 years from now to kind of consider it that. But since it's happening in real time right now, it's a little confusing. But that's how I see it. It's just,
But
it's
like
another
closer
one.
together than those were, though.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I think that's like, I look at it that way too. But it is confusing that like they're both in the same extended universe. You know,
Yeah.
like, even though like that's kind of breaking down a little bit, they still like kind of are. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I guess I don't really have a full answer to that question, but I know that they're not like, it's not a sequel. It's not meant to be a direct connection to that film. It's just meant to be a new Suicide Squad movie. So
Yep.
that's where we're at. A couple of other DC related stories that we got. First one is that Pierce Brosnan was cast as a DC superhero, Dr. Fate, in the Black Adam movie starring Dwayne Johnson. And then Helen Mirren was cast in Shazam, Fury of the Gods, as a character named Hespera, if I remember correctly. She'll be the villain. She'll be the villain. So that'll be interesting. I mean, Helen Mirren's awesome. And I like the first Shazam movie. I mean, last week I talked about it. It was like one of the movies that I rated pretty highly in terms of DCEU movies. So I'm excited to get more Zachary Levi Shazam, and I'm excited to get an actor of the caliber of Helen Mirren into the DCEU.
Yes, a Dame Helen Mirren
That's
coming
right.
into the fold here. Pretty exciting. That's, the Shazam series is already off to a fantastic start. I really hope that we get more of the full family that we saw at the end of the first Shazam to just totally like play a huge part in Shazam 2. I don't know if we will, or if they'll just let it die off and come back later. I want it to. And Helen Mirren is just an absolute baller. She just deserves everything. So let's bring her into this. Let's again make DC better. Let's start a hashtag. Make DC better.
Just make
good.
Yeah. Just
not
make
even
it
better.
good. Just make it good. Like better is good, but better doesn't necessarily mean good because it's not good right now. So
make DC good now.
Please. And then add please at the end because
please.
Like, it's like we're begging.
PLZ because the hashtag. We don't want it to go too long.
Yes, exactly. I love it. Let's start it. Okay. Speaking of making things better, there is a new Transformers movie coming. That's right. How many movies are in this series now? And who's asking for this?
No one.
We need to stop them at all costs.
All right, we got 3 Shia LaBeoufs. We got 1 Mark Wahlberg. We got 1 Haley Steinfeld. So is this number 6? Is this number 6?
Wow, I'm surprised it's only number 6. If that's true, I'm surprised. Which one's the one where they're like knights?
No clue. That sounds like the Mark Wahlberg one.
Isn't there a Black Knight? Yeah. Is that is the Mark Wahlberg one? I think.
Yeah.
Now Bumblebee was actually good with Haley Steinfeld.
Okay,
but still, it was good for all the opposite reasons that the Transformers movies are bad. If that makes any sense. Like it did things better than the other Transformers movies did. So I am like scared. And also, I don't know, let's just like wait 10 years and hit refresh or something like that. I don't know. Why do we, every 5 years we get one of these things rolled out and it's just like collective groan from the crowd. And they try to get us excited, which, they've got a hot filmmaker on the scene, and Angel Manuel Soto, who is from Charm City Kings. And so, they got a good screenwriter, they got a good director. They're like, this is going to be awesome. And it very well may, but, just stop.
I don't care. Please. I don't care how good it is. I don't care how good its potential is. I'm not seeing this. I'm not going to see this movie. I'm sorry.
They've bred apathy. That's what they've done. They spit out too many mediocre Transformers movies. So now, like I didn't see Bumblebee in theaters. I didn't see it until a bunch of people were like, "Hey, it's actually really good. You should check it out." And I was even then, I was like, oh, "Really?"
Yeah. I have yet to see Bumblebee, and I will not. I will not. Haley Steinfeld, you cannot make me.
Well, I am a Haley Steinfeld stan, and also, I kind of liked it. And it was way better than the other Transformers movies, but still, it's like, I'm so tired of Transformers movies. And I'm tired of Bumblebee. Just stop. I'm Tired of these characters.
I mean, just let him die. Just let him die a slow,
Wow.
painful death.
That's kind of sinister. All right, let's move on from Transformers before Kirk gets arrested or something like that. Okay. Other big news stories coming out of this week. Disney, as they are wont to do, they do this thing really fun. I really appreciate it, where they just drop a whole crap load of news on one day. That's their preferred mode of communicating things.
Mm-hmm.
They moved a bunch of release dates around. Okay, so Shang-Chi got moved to September, and Black Widow, which will seemingly never come out, got moved from May to July 9th, which means that it will have been 2 years since we got a Marvel film in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Because Spider-Man Far From Home came out July 3rd, 2019.
Oh my goodness.
And that was, isn't that wild?
Yes.
That is wild to think about.
Oh.
And then they took a short break to transition into phase 4. And they never got to see, that break continues. That's just where we're at. So, other big part of this is that Black Widow, they finally caved and they're going to put it on Disney Plus with Premier Access, which they said they would not do. But here's what they figured out. They have figured out that there are a bunch of people out there, a bunch of idiots like me, who will go see Black Widow in theaters and then come home and pay $30 to have it in my Disney Plus catalog so I can watch it again.
100%. And this is one that I'm not even going to hack into your account for. I will also go to the theater with you, and I will also put it on my Disney Plus account so I can watch it over and over and whenever I want, because that's how excited I am about this movie.
Same. I've been hyped for it for so long. The hype meter just stayed here for 2 years. I'm going to die from it soon if it doesn't stop. And yeah, Kevin Feige must have been like, listen, guys, I know you don't want to put it on Disney Plus with Premier Access, but listen, we've got a bunch of mindless lemmings walking around out there who will, at the snap of a finger, go to the theater, see the movie, pay $15 to do it, come home, pay $30 to have it in their Disney Plus catalog and watch it 1,000 times. They will.
Right.
And there's not just a couple of them. There is an army. There's a whole army of morons like me and you who will do it. And I'm proud of that status. I'm proud of being one of the mindless lemmings who will do it because it's going to be great. Superhero movies back.
I'll pay anything to see Scarlett Johansson, anything for Florence Pugh, and anything for David Harbour. All three of our stars in Black Widow. Like it's a no-brainer.
It is
an absolute no-brainer. So yes, I'll pay anything. I'll pay $50 Premier Access.
Wow.
Let's go. Let's go.
Don't say that too loud. They might be listening. They'll be like, listen, now it's
They're
Premier
always listening.
Premier Access Plus. You have to pay $50 and sign over your soul to Disney Studios. Cruella also is going to release on Disney Plus the same day. That was another thing that they announced. And they announced that Luca, the next Disney and Pixar film, will premiere exclusively on Disney Plus in the same way that Soul did, and will skip theatrical window altogether, it's really interesting because the Pixar movies do really well in theaters. And so I'm surprised. I don't know. It's such an interesting strategy to me because I'm like, do these new movies like Soul and Luca and, Onward, started in theaters, but then got moved to Disney Plus because of the chaos that ensued. Like, does that drive new subs? Do you think it does?
I think it could, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like maybe it adds value to existing subscribers to where they're like, oh man, well, we checked out Luca and that was free and my kid loved it. Like maybe it does that, which is important. But I just don't see people being like, oh man, I really wanted to see that and it's only on Disney Plus. I guess I'm going to have to, like, I don't know. I don't know that Pixar drives that sort of behavior.
Here's a question. Does Disney Plus still have a free trial period? I feel like they do.
They do.
I feel like they should do what HBO Max did: pull the plug on free trials, and you just have to pay no matter what every time you sign up. And that way, you drive traffic. So if, for these ones that are specifically like, if someone is attached to Luca, I don't know that they would be specifically to it, but maybe they are. Maybe they are. That's how I think Disney can make their next move and still only have your premiere access film as well. And then you have a double whammy for Disney, because Disney is Disney, you know.
Yeah, they could certainly do it, when they have one of these big releases come out, right? Like that's basically what that's what HBO did. They were like you said, like once they switched over to having movies release immediately on HBO Max, then they were like, yeah, no more free subs.
Right.
You have to come get it. 15 you have to pay us at least $15 if you want to check this out, which
Right.
Still cheaper than going to the theaters if on the Disney end, because it's $6.99. You go, okay, well, my kid wants to see the new Pixar movie, $6.99, and then you can cancel afterwards. I mean,
And then you
Disney
have a
still
month
wins.
anyways of watching whatever you want to do, cancel if you need to, another movie rolls out, turn it back on, or just get sucked in and forget it's there and just pay every month like you should. So
Yeah. Hey, it's a good call. I mean, I think that's a good way for them to do it. But yeah, so Disney shuffled around a bunch of release dates. There were some others in there that were slightly more minor. The King's Man got moved again. Like a couple of those, like those legacy Fox properties got shuffled around. And the other thing that they announced on the Disney side, and this was interesting because I feel like this was rumored a long time ago, like around the time that Disney had their big investor day last year. Was that there's a National Treasure series coming to Disney Plus.
oh my.
That's right. We're going to steal the Declaration of Independence again. And if Nicolas Cage is not in this show, Kirk,
Oh,
I mean, I'm worried. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that he won't be.
listen to me. If he is not, I vow to become a computer programmer solely to hack into Disney Plus and take it down.
Yeah.
I would take it down.
It'd be
I
your
will
life's
not
mission.
watch a National Treasure without Nicolas Cage.
That's admirable. Honestly, it really is. Yeah, is it even National Treasure without Nicolas Cage?
No,
Like they
he
said
is
they
the
were-
national. He is the National Treasure. It's a double entendre.
Yes, the movie title is actually referring to him, not
Yes.
the treasure that they're. That makes so much more sense.
It always was. It always was. It's
It
always
was there.
been
It was
about
hidden
him.
in plain sight the whole time, just like the map on the Declaration of Independence. It was.
That's
there.
right. That's right.
Wow. But yeah, they were like the writers are returning. I was like, the writers. Like the writers? We don't care about the writers. Anybody, we can have anybody write this. We want Nick Cage, or give us Nick Cage, or give us death. is
I
what
want Nick
say.
Cage to write this and star in it, because that would be something.
And direct it. Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
I want a
think so.
one-man show of Nicolas Cage when theaters reopen called National Treasure.
We're still waiting on The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I think that's the movie that's
Yep.
coming out. It's like autobiographical. Oh, dude, that is going to be a
Yes.
treat. And sadly, I haven't yet made time to watch the movie where he is in the Chuck E. Cheese, basically killing all those Chuck E. Cheese monsters.
Right. I've also not checked this out
I
just
don't
yet.
think it's actually Chuck E. Cheese, so apologies for the defamation there, Chuck E. Cheese. But basically, there's a movie. What is this called? It's like basically the name of the restaurant and there or the place, and all these people are getting like attacked by these things, and he's like the janitor at the place, and he's like killing them.
Let me look it up.
So I don't even know how that one slipped off my radar. There's been so much stuff to watch that I somehow
There it
passed
is.
up that gym.
Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland. That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, that's a must watch. If anybody's seen that one, I need the review. I need to know, because that's going to be a blast.
It's
That's going to be
rentable.
great.
I found the rest of my weekend. Good night, everybody.
Right?
I'll see you
Just
later.
Right after this, we just go, just walk over into the other room, crack a couple brewskis. Willy's Wonderland on the TV. That just sounds like a perfect Saturday night, to be quite honest with you.
It's so good. It's so fantastic. This might be next week. Let's forget about
no.
whatever we were gonna do. Let's do.
We can't not do Godzilla versus Kong. It's kind of a big deal.
I don't know. Have you seen these monsters? This is pretty sick.
I've seen the trailer. I have seen the trailer, and it looks great. I'm excited about it. I do have one more news story, which is that, and this is like pretty low effort news story, but I've been seeing it on my Twitter. Adam McKay is making a show on HBO, which Adam McKay, he's the Talladega Nights guy, The Big Short, stuff like that. Uh, so
Vice. Yeah.
Vice, yeah, he wasn't Wolf of Wall Street. That's Scorsese. That's what always tricks me. But
Yep.
he did The Big Short. Anyway, he's making a show about the Showtime Lakers for HBO, and that cast is so awesome. He cast Bo Burnham as Larry Bird,
Yes.
and Bo Burnham is like 6'5", 6'6" in real life. So that's going to be just sick. And I saw some other castings. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they cast Jerry Buss. In every casting that I've seen, I'm just like, this looks amazing. I cannot wait. John C. Reilly is playing Jerry Buss, so I'm just like, yes, I had no idea this was coming somehow. Slipped under the radar, but I also didn't know that I needed this in my life until I saw all the casting news, and I was like, "Yeah, this has to happen."
It's a pretty big
and
cast.
Jason Segel's in there too. I think he
is Paul Westhead.
Paul Westhead. Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be just the greatest.
Jason Clarke is playing Jerry West. Excellent choice.
That is an excellent choice, and he's a fantastic actor, underrated actor.
He really is. He really is.
Oh,
and
man.
Those are the biggest names. I'm trying to see if there's any other. There's a character named Rodney, but
yeah,
it doesn't pertain.
I just
into
really
who it might be.
appreciate Adam McKay's like finding the perfect person for a role. He will he wants them to look like them, move like them. Like he's amazing at that. And I like even the Christian Bale as Dick Cheney thing was totally wild, but it worked. And so kudos to Adam McKay. I can't wait for that show. It's going to be so great. It's going to be so great.
It's going to be wild.
That is all we've got for What's Poppin'. Let's pop it up one last time. Okay. And that brings us to the last portion of our show. What just happened there?
I was getting my very fresh popcorn.
Fresh out your super fast popcorn machine?
Yes, I popped a whole new batch because I needed fresh popcorn for the sound effect.
Well, it looks great. It looks scrumptious. But we are reviewing a film, a really good popcorn film, actually, on the topic of popcorn. A movie called Nobody. And you're synopsing. You're synopsing this week. Are you prepared for that?
I will synopse. I will once again read the IMDb synopsis.
Why? Why do you keep reading? You saw the movie.
I did see the movie. All right. I'll just go. I'll just go for it. You ready?
I didn't mean to pressure you, but I am ready.
Well, you did pressure me. Let's be clear. Okay, here we go. Hutch Mansell lives a very mundane life over and over again, working for the man, trying to get ahead, but something isn't quite right until one day circumstances change and Hutch just loses it. Find out why in Nobody.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was great. Yeah. So Hutch Mansell. This movie is about a guy named Hutch Mansell, and it is Bob Odenkirk, and he is pretty much like one of the only big people in the cast. Like it's his show. It's the Bob Odenkirk show, and it's extraordinarily violent. So if you're not into that, though, I have to say, well, I think judging by Kirk, in a weird way, like Kirk and I weren't really able to talk about the movie because we try not to. We try to keep our thoughts to ourselves. But the one point I know we both thoroughly enjoyed in this movie, and just a reminder before we go into it, we do spoiler full reviews now, not spoiler free. So you're gonna hear spoilers. But there's a part in this movie where the Russian bad guy is going to see some of his guys who got beat up in the hospital, and he's super mad at one of them, and he's walking to his hospital room and he picks up a chair, and you're like, why'd he pick up that chair? And then he walks in the room and you see the guy in the hospital bed and he's like, Julian. And before he can even finish saying his name, Julian throws the chair at him and it hits him directly in the face. It is one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my entire life. We were both like howling in the theater. It was so hilarious.
It didn't get enough credit, man. I mean, again, there were only 8 people in the super duplex theater room, and just the timing of it was so wonderful. It couldn't have been a more perfect shot. Just the stunt coordinator and the actor who got hit with the chair. I think he actually got hit with the chair. I want to play that in slow-mo, but it was so perfect. I loved every fast, quick frame of it. Just nailed him.
Yeah.
The Foley artist had it on. Oh my gosh, it was glorious.
It was. They probably only did, it was just like one take and it was just pure movie magic. And they were like, that's it. That's the take. Cut.
Right. It was a total accident. And that guy's still in the hospital. He's like in a coma now.
He's like actually in the hospital now. Yeah. I just had to say that because that part was so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think people were equating this movie to John Wick, and it definitely has that sort of vibe. It's like, you know, people break into his house, and it like sends him back into the game. You know, Hutch Manziel back into the game. So, yeah, let's review it. Kirk, you want to kick us off with your who the Oscar goes to?
Oh, I'd love to. My voice cracked a little bit there. What if I just talked like this the rest of the time? I'm not sure anyone would continue listening, and I apologize. The Oscar goes to Mr. Am I pointing at the screen correctly? Bob Odenkirk. There it is. Mr. Bob Odenkirk. Dude, this guy has got it all. Bob Odenkirk started as a writer. He was a comedic writer on SNL for a number of years, which is just baffling. He auditioned to be Michael Scott in The Office, didn't get it, and had a guest role on it. And then, of course, as we all know and love him, Mr. Bob Odenkirk as Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad, and then Better Call Saul as Slippin' Jimmy. I mean, come on. No one in their right mind would have thought that this guy would be a movie star or a TV legend at this point. And he has got it all. He's just such a brilliant mind. He, in this role as Hutch, he is depressed. He's annoyed. He is suave. There's this whole backstory to him where he's like this secret, off the grid operative for the government who would come in like totally classified and just like murder people so there'd be no witnesses for highly classified missions. It's a crazy, crazy situation. It's a crazy, crazy role. And he's got all this pent up anger. He's not like, he doesn't, it's almost like he doesn't want to kill everybody, but he also doesn't have any remorse when he has to. So he's like, all right, let's do this. And I also love, there's a big scene where we finally get to see him unleash all of his anger that he's been penting up. And it's not like he's ready to go. No, he had to warm up to it, right? Because he's been dormant for a while. I just thought, you know, we have seen we've seen Bob Odenkirk in progression in a television series, and it's really cool to see him progress a character in the shorter span of a film, and he did it perfectly. So big win. He's the Oscar right there.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much a one-man show in every stretch of the imagination. So it has to be Bob Odenkirk for me as well. I think, Kirk, you hit on a lot of the highlights. I think what I like about Bob Odenkirk, I mean, everything personally. I think he's truly brilliant. I mean, you talked about his resume and where he started. I think it's not hyperbole. I think he's a truly brilliant actor, and it's not that this was like the most finessed performance in the history of the world, in a lot of ways. I mean, it's an action movie, but what I loved about it is how Bob Odenkirk was just very aware of the movie that he was in. You know what I mean? Like he didn't take it overly seriously. He wasn't afraid to like deliver lines in like a cheesy action movie kind of way, which helped. It helped with the self-awareness of the movie. It helped you feel like, okay, they know what kind of movie they're making, and that's so important in action movies these days, because if you want to make a preposterous action movie with a plot that's outlandish, with action sequences that are just totally crazy, and you want it to be good, it's very important that you keep the self-awareness intact. I think that's something that the reason people equate this movie to John Wick, other than a million things, but one of the main reasons is because it did that. And that was something that John Wick really coined, was like, John Wick is such a funny movie because it's like that meme. Have you ever seen that meme of like that stick figure, not stick figure guy, but like low animation guy who's like putting his finger up and he's like, and he's like, like he wants to say something, but he can't do it. That's what the whole watching of the John Wick experience is like, because you're like, that was ridiculous. And you're like, but it actually followed the rules of the movie that they set out. And you're like, and it was really stylish, and they knew that it was ridiculous, and they showed you that they knew. Like, you want to be mad at John Wick. You want to be like, this is a crappy action movie, but you can't, because it's not. It's like, it is absolutely ridiculous, but that is the point of the movie. So this movie played off of that. They took the cues that John Wick had, and Bob Odenkirk especially looked at some of the ways that Keanu did things in John Wick and took it to the next level. So I just really appreciated that from him, and it was critically important to making this movie effective. So shout out to Mr. Bob Odenkirk, which is his Twitter handle, by the way, if you want to follow him. He's a great follow, Mr. Bob Odenkirk. All right, Kirk, who's your scene stealer?
This was hard.
Yes.
This was very difficult. I will say that the supporting cast wasn't phenomenal. But at the same time, there were some like lukewarm performances that were like, well, maybe him, maybe her, whatever. I gotta go my scene stealer with, I'm not gonna pronounce this correctly. I can't even talk. It's gonna go to Alexei Serebryakov, who plays the villain.
That was lovely.
The Yulian. Yes.
Yulian, yeah.
Dude, this guy comes out and you're like, oh, this guy's probably the bad guy. And I was severely worried for the next couple of minutes of the movie, because he is just like, at first, like when you first see him, you're like, oh, this is just some side character. But then you're like, we're following this guy for a long time. And the way the camera angles are going, it's like, oh no, this is our big bad. This is not good. This is not good. You meet him in a club and people are talking about him. I think that he even gets a title for his introduction. It even says Yulian. I'm like, oh crap, that's Yulian. Like, this is not good. Like, I'm just gonna like close my eyes and go to sleep here. And then they turn it around in such a huge way during his introduction, where so he's just kind of this drunk guy. He's singing on stage at karaoke at his own club, and he's just living life, soaking it in. And everyone's like, "You're the one holding all of our money, like the big Russian mafia. Like, you have all of the control of all of our money." He's like, "You guys are worried about that? No problem." And then just straight up destroys this guy's face, the one who I believe gets hit with the chair briefly after this. He takes like a wine glass and he shatters it, and then he like goes and scalds it across his face over and over and over and over again. And then he just like throws it on the ground and turns around like, yeah. And this could have been done in a very campy way, which also would have been terrible for the lead villain. But there's something about this actor, and again, his name is Alexei Serebryakov. There's something about him that he's also just a trained, skilled, experienced actor. He knew that it was bigger than that. So Yulian gets it. From that point on, he totally sold it. He sucked me in, and from every beat after that, he continued to just keep it fresh and kind of fight against very easy stereotypes that could be played into the trope of this role.
Yeah, great pick. I like it a lot. My scene stealer, you know him, you love him. He's Christopher Lloyd. I had to go with Christopher Lloyd, who plays Hutch Manziel's father, who is, what's his name? I'm blanking. David Manziel. And so he is Bob Odenkirk's dad, which actually, we were talking about this after the movie, but it actually like worked. Like, he kind of did look like his dad. But I think what was really fun about it is he gets to play this role where he's like this unassuming old guy in the nursing home who then just gets to go like full scorched earth, like has a sawed off shotgun and is like shooting people in the head and, you know, like choking guys out. And he's like 80 something years old. Like it's just, it, it is, you know, if you're going to go preposterous, you got to go all the way and you got to have fun with it. And Christopher Lloyd, I think, added a lot of that fun, especially in the like ending fight sequences. And really, we're talking like just his facial expressions and physical acting, but it just added a whole new element to the end of the movie. Where I just think like action movies get more fun when you have a crew and a crew that you like. And he was a cool, like unorthodox person to add to that crew. And once again, understood his role and didn't take it too seriously and just had a lot of fun with it. And it was obvious, and it made the ending of the movie a lot more fun than it could have been. So Christopher Lloyd, ladies and gentlemen, he's still here.
Beautiful.
All right, let's move into Showstopper and let's talk about what we really enjoyed about the movie Nobody.
Yeah, it all comes down to that hospital chair to the face, man. The comedy, the comedy violence antithesis was just beautifully played because you have very very horrible things happening, but if you can make me so uncomfortable or make me feel that it makes me laugh. I mean, there's such an art to that doesn't just come naturally. There's also a moment when Bob Odenkirk, a comedy to violence, Bob Odenkirk is like screaming at someone with the gun in their face. Then there's a baby in the back room, and he says, "Give me the bleeping kitty cat bracelet." Bleep! Like he's just throwing expletives, yelling about his daughter's kitty cat bracelet specifically, and it is so funny and so real that it's just very very powerful. I loved every moment that they did of it. It continued throughout. It reminds me kind of like in Drive with Ryan Gosling, where you have the horrible two terrible murders in there. There's a lot, but one of them happens in an elevator. There's basically like a curb stomp out. I think it's Oscar Isaac that gets murdered by Ryan Gosling in that scene.
Yeah.
And then the second one that comes earlier is a shotgun to the face in a motel room. And it's so horrible. It makes you laugh out loud because it's horrifying, completely unexpected. And the human condition is completely unpredictable. But but because of that, because of how they maneuvered that throughout the entire film, some of the most violent moments, I was laughing my butt off. And maybe that makes me a sadistic person, but it really was done with a comedic touch to it. So bravo.
Yeah, that's a good call out. My showstopper is different. My showstopper is the world building, which got off to a slow start. Honestly, you're sitting here wondering like, okay, what are we doing here? This guy is like, what? He's just some like, you know, stereotypical like dead end job kind of dad. His kids don't respect him because he's not tough, and you know, it just takes a long time to get going, and they really drag it out. But then, you know, they create this whole world about the auditor. You know, he was this guy in the government institution that was like so deep under like black ops type stuff. Like he was basically called the auditor because he was the last person you wanted to see at your door. He was somebody who cleaned up the messes. He was like an unstoppable force. And they do that. They build out his crew. They build out his backstory. You know, like you start to see him like he has this basement, this like all these house, like his house is all teched out. So it has like these huge like lead line doors, and his basement is basically in like incinerator so that if people raid his house, he can burn all their bodies in it. Like it gets wild, but they build out this like character. They build out this persona that fits really well in this world. And it's so critical because otherwise the movie doesn't really work at all. So they had to do that. I wish they would have done it a little bit earlier in the movie, or at least started planting the seeds, or just accelerate that front half of the movie. But it does answer so many questions, and they tie so many things up to where you're left with not too many questions about the world, at least. And so I think that was a really good job on their part in terms of how they executed that. They really left no stone unturned, in my opinion.
Fantastic. The odds are coming back. They were gone for a while. Everything you said was interesting. I'm just really tired.
Yeah, whatever, dude. All right, let's move on to director's shoes. What are some notes you have?
So the world building was really great. I agree. And I think they could have actually made this even more absurd than it was. I think that the director grounded this in reality a little too much. In fact, this movie had the feel of course, John Wick falling down with Michael Douglas. If you've ever heard of that or seen that, Michael Douglas is having a really bad day, and then he just ends up killing a whole bunch of people for just because of he snaps for anger management. It's very much like the secret, like kind of the secret Black Ops, like on a super secret mission. There's a movie that's similar to that with like Stretch with Patrick Wilson. It's a terrible movie. There's and then Birds of Prey, 21 Jump Street, to throw the humor in it and to throw the attempting to ground something in reality that doesn't quite need it. The world building was already good enough with the absurdity of it all that I wish that they just would have laid there and not tried to bring so much normalcy to Hutch's character. So, and the other part of that, there were some plot lines that didn't really get flushed out that we could potentially. I thought, like, is this going to be a franchise? Are we going to see Hutch in another film after this? Because all of these little breadcrumbs of who he was didn't really get tied up. So that's where I landed. Could have been more absurd. I wanted to know more about, were these was it actually a family unit, him, Christopher Lloyd, and his brother? I never know how you say his name. Is it RZA? RZA is the actor. Yeah, yep. So were they really a family, like an actual family, or were they put together on purpose as a metaphorical family and assigned to each other to become the crazy kind of killing machine that he is? I would have loved to know more about that within the world, but ultimately, give me more absurdity.
Yeah, I like that take. I like that take a lot. I agree with that, but my director shoes, and I've got a few of them, but I think the biggest one is just like what ends up being sort of the core conflict is very weakly pulled together. Like it doesn't really make a ton of sense. So Kirk mentioned the kitty cat bracelet. Basically, the inciting incident is that Bob Odenkirk, Hutch Manziel, his house gets robbed. He knows that the people who are robbing his house are desperate, and so he doesn't take any action against them, okay? And so people are giving him all this crap about it, like, oh man, if that was my house, you don't even know. And he, deep down, is like this savage killer, right? And so that's eating away at him. But then once he finds out that his precious daughter's kitty cat bracelet was stolen, he's like, that's it. Well, then he goes to the house, he finds out that those people are like, they have a baby who has medical issues and they're super poor. And he's like, man, I can't do anything to these people, even though I really wanted to hurt them for stealing the kitty cat bracelet. And so then he goes out and long story short, he meets up with these guys on a bus who are just like up to no good. And he like beats the crap out of all of them, like to a bloody pulp. And those guys are related to the Russian guy who Kirk mentioned earlier. And that's the connection. Like, that's how they get to the main conflict. And like that for me is just way too roundabout, way too cheap, not super well written in my opinion. And I think that there's just like, if you're going to go through all the trouble of like world building this character and all that stuff, like he would for sure have enemies. He would for sure have like a past that could creep up on him. Like it didn't have to be like this chance occurrence with this random dude. Right. I just thought that was a little bit weak in general. So they could have done better there. And there are other things they could have done better of, but I just really think that that's the one that sticks out to me because like you said, I do sort of feel like they're building towards a franchise and, it's not unlike what happens in John Wick. These guys see his car and then, they go to steal his car and they kill his dog. And like, it's very similar in that way, but there's this whole other world that those guys are connected to that John Wick is also connected to that right. builds something bigger. Like these guys would have never really crossed paths, and it's only this happenstance thing and there's nothing really left between them at the end of the movie. So I don't know. It just felt a little bit weak and I wish they would have beefed that up a little bit because I do think they're sort of building towards a franchise. So let's dig the roots deeper. Let's build it out a little bit more so that we will want to come back for Nobody 2.
Yeah, I think if they would have, they have two montages at the beginning of this film to show the mundaneness and the repetitiveness. They didn't need that. I
No.
think they wanted to do it for style, to not just do it and then let it die. But if they would have shrunk either one of those or both of those, I kind of get. I'm with you 100%. I kind of get how they wanted to like blindside us that he was like this, what this mercenary, off the grid, off the documentations of the government, so that they'd be able to disavow him, right? They wanted that kind of surprise, and they got that, but it just took way too long to when these guys that he
Yes.
beats up, they come around the corner downtown at like 90 miles an hour and come running into a street barricade and then get out like nothing happened. Like,
Well, yeah, and their only transgression against Bob Odenkirk is that they're just like drunk and belligerent. Like they didn't like commit any sort of ill towards him. Like they didn't wrong him in any way. It's just that like he was already ticked off and those guys just were in the wrong place at the wrong time, which again is like, come on, there's got to be something better we can write for that. There has to be.
right. And I didn't want to like, so then there was also like the impending threat that they were going to assault the only girl on the bus. Not that I wanted to see an assault, but maybe they like push her or something and then he could like get up and like take them down, right? It was that whole the trans
Yeah, they never they never made any, they didn't do anything to that girl. Like they didn't even, all they said was like they kind of catcalled her a little bit, but like he was already on the bus. So
right.
like if something were to happen, he could protect her and he could have just said like, hey, back off. But again, there's just like the inciting incident was so weird.
It was weird for sure. It was weird for sure. But so like had they played up the absurdity, then that moment when they crashed into the barricade, I was almost like, because we hadn't had any absurd moments at that point. So when they crashed into that barricade and they got out, I was like, what is this movie? This makes no
Yeah,
sense.
I know.
That's when the movie turns, obviously, but they needed more of that in the front end to make it make sense for the full through line. Because after that, we had the chair. we we had Christopher Lloyd and all of his guns and antics. We had the brother on the radio, the
Well,
secret
and the
radio
whole bus
popping
fight
out, and
was the whole bus fight was gruesome for sure, like
yep,
to a ridiculous extent, but also pretty funny. Like at one point,
yep,
he like takes the takes the like cord you pull to request to stop and like basically like hangs this guy from it and then they show
yes,
the sign that says stop requested. I'm like, that
yes,
is gold, like that is just
yeah,
absolute gold. Like set that up better.
yep. So all good intentions. It just needed some fine tuning.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move into final thoughts and scores. Kirk, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, yeah. It's an action movie. Nobody is an action movie that overall just loses itself in its over ambitious narrative for me. I've definitely seen worse. My Oscar and Scene Stealer definitely kept the plot stake high and interesting. I'm giving this movie a 6.5 out of 10 kernels.
Yeah, good score. Good score. I think that's pretty good. I think, I found this movie incredibly difficult to score personally. I really
Yeah.
did because it's like you said, like you can't take it too seriously. It's an action movie, but at the same time, like execution wise, there are some pretty big miss marks in my book. I did enjoy it for the most part. I thought the second half was way better than the front half of the movie, and I thought the front half was like, it's an hour and a half movie, and the first part of that movie feels like it takes forever to get off the ground. And so I would have liked more going on in the second half. Even the big like climactic scene is like really short. Like the big battle sequence, it like
Yes.
you build up to it a little bit, and then you have it, and it just ultimately doesn't feel as epic as it should, because I think they just kind of like ran out of juice, and they spent so much time in the front half of the movie, like trying to establish this, like, he's just a normal mundane guy. And we're like, yeah, we get it. Like we've seen movies like this before. This isn't a groundbreaking idea. So I think that's a mismark. I think had this movie come out before John Wick, we'd be having a very different conversation, but you can't ignore the fact that this is a very derivative movie. It's just, it really derives a lot of what it does and takes a lot of notes from John Wick. And so it's hard to like you can't watch this movie without comparing it to it. You just can't. They take too many things straight out of it. Even the world that they're trying to build is pretty similar. The Russian mob thing is pretty similar. Like, there is just a lot taken there. And like you said, I think with the absurdity versus serious action movie, they couldn't decide what the identity of this movie was. It's like watching a basketball team that's like kind of good at some things, but not good. They're not like really good at one thing. And so they have no identity, and those kinds of teams never win. So that's what this movie was like for me. So I think all told, it's a 5.7 for me. And I think, I would watch it again. I think it's a weird 5.7 in the sense that, like, it has a lot of wrongs, the ones that I just listed in my opinion, but the stuff that it does right in a pretty entertaining way. And it's like a movie that you don't have to have a high level of engagement to find enjoyment in it. So it is still enjoyable, which is why I kept it above the 5 mark, but I don't think it's like an amazing movie. Right. By any means. So I think it's worth seeing. As always, we always recommend you guys go see it. Let us know your thoughts on Nobody. This is, like I said, one of the hardest movies, in my opinion, that we've reviewed, at least so far in 2021, if not since we started. I just went back and forth on it. But in the end, I think, we both agree there could have been some things executed more cleanly. Personally.
Yep. If anything, this movie will always be remembered for that chair to the face stunt.
Yeah, and I love the bus fight scene. Like, that was fun. And honestly, like the end scene with like the Home Alone thing, I just wish it was longer, and I wish it was like more epic. I mean, we take out the main villain so quickly, and very little buildup.
And not even like a double tap. You're right. He's dead, and you fully expect in this world for him to come like running at him.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was like, that was weird. But well.
I did. One of the weirdest things about this movie is that like the signature weapon is a Claymore mine.
Yes.
Like at multiple times he's using like this World War II era Claymore. He like, when he goes to meet Julian in the club, he's like got it underneath a napkin with the pin on his finger, which basically, like, if somebody were to shoot him, he would fall and the pin would be pulled and the Claymore would explode.
Right.
And then in the final kill, he straps the Claymore to a piece of plexiglass and basically uses it as a riot shield and crashes into Julian. They both go flying, which is cool, creative. But like, again, what a very, very bizarre signature weapon to use in that movie. So that's Nobody for you, though. It is just a really interesting movie. So check out Nobody. You can only catch this one in theaters. So if you need some popcorn in your life, if you need some Reese's Pieces, that's what I was doing. Get out there, get your mask on. It's feels safe. So, and I'm gonna literally choke Kirk out through the computer screen if I hear one more mouth sound. It is seriously so horrible. But that is all we've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for bearing with us on the stream timeline. If you guys are listening to the podcast, thank you for subscribing, downloading, listening. We appreciate you guys very much. If you go see Nobody, if you make it out to the theaters, go check it out. Let us know your thoughts. You know how to reach us. One of the easiest ways to reach us is via Discord. I want to keep talking about Discord because we're building a really fun community there of movie and TV lovers. We're sharing memes, we're sharing articles, and we would just want to build that community out more so we can talk more about movies and TV. And I'm excited to talk about it. I just started that show on Amazon Prime, Invincible. I mentioned it earlier today. It's that animated show. That's got a really cool vibe, and it's got lots of potential. We're obviously talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on there, which is what we're doing our Spilled Popcorn series on right now. So if you're into that stuff, if you're into movies and TV, Discord is the place to be. You can find the link to our Discord server in the description. Also, next time, it sounds like we're going to review Godzilla vs. Kong. So if you are interested in that movie, come join us next week, same time, hopefully earlier, as long as my car doesn't overheat. And we can review Godzilla vs. Kong together. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we want to give a special thanks to our executive producer, Mr. Ryan Spriggs. And our original music is by the band Rhetoric. You can check them out on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We will see you guys next week.
Talk to you then.